Welcome to another edition of the Dean Legge Show. It's Sunday night. 24 hours ago, Georgia took care of business against the Gators, a 24-17 win. Pretty big deal win for Georgia for sure. Now they've got Missouri. They're about a 2-touchdown favorite in Athens. Missouri has been pretty bad on the road. They've not won on the road this year. They've lost to Wyoming, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Not exactly a trio of college football world beaters, but if you're Georgia, and despite the fact that you won the two biggest games you played this season, you also have lost to a team you had no business losing to in South Carolina because of turnovers. So you got to take everyone seriously. Missouri actually controls their own destiny in the East, something that Dan Mullen was trying to say but didn't say so articulately last night. He didn't come off looking real great in the post-game interview. It made it sound like I don't know, it wasn't ideal. But for Kirby and company, I actually want to go first to some video of Jake Fromm and me talking at the end of the game. I think it's relatively self-explanatory, but I do think it gives even further insight into who Jake Fromm is, and people. He's very comfortable in his own skin for sure. But let's just listen to what he has to say right here about his faith in himself and his abilities.
How eager were you to just play football today at some point?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do was just go out and play football. I wanted to go out. I wanted to glorify my God. I wanted to play for my teammates, and I wanted to play for the University of Georgia.
When you talk about God, that's faith. And how do you maintain faith as it relates to your athletic ability? Faith in God is one thing. Faith in athletic ability might go hand in hand, really.
Yeah, I know that He's not going to put me through anything that I can't get myself out of. It all comes down to trials and tests, and I know that I'm equipped. I'm ready to go through any test that He's ready to put me through, and I have faith in that. And that's what it kind of.
Athletically, life, health, whatever.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. I'm ready to go attack it head on, and just really thankful to be here in this moment with my teammates around me to help me through that. And I couldn't be more thankful to come out here today with the win.
There's very little question that this was basically all on Jake to get done. I mean, that's oversaying it. This game, if he didn't play well, they'd have lost. And that usually happens with the quarterback. But he went 20 of 30 for 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a long of 52. I guess that was the Cager touchdown, the 52-yarder. Yeah. Look, I was on the sideline right there. I'm on the sideline for every game, obviously. But that pass... he had plenty of time. He had plenty of time the whole day. But that pass, Cager was wide open in a way that you just never see anyone get open in college football. So it was clearly a blown coverage. But he started on the opposite side of the field, and I was talking with a Georgia official on the sideline after the play, and his comment was, at first I thought it was a wheel route, but then it, after seeing the replay, he just came through the middle. No one disrupted him, and I guess the corner that had responsibility for him, I mean, if he's running like that, they're clearly not in man, or they're in some bizarre. Well, they could just be in man and the guy just forget to cover it. I don't know. It was bad. But he was wide open, and Jake threw it right where I was sitting, and Lawrence Cager just did the rest. He didn't have to make a tough throw, nothing. But that really, I think, Georgia was not going to change who they are and what they do. Now, they tweaked things, but if you look at the grand total of what they did yesterday, in terms of being balanced, you had 37 runs, 30 passes. So they ran a little bit more than they threw. That's who they are. You compare that to Florida. I mean, first of all, Georgia ran, just quick math here, 17-ish more plays, 15 more plays. That's a whole extra drive. a long drive. It probably is really 2 drives more than the Gators had, and most drives are not 15 plays, but they just gave up on the run. They only ran it 19 times, and some of those were sacks. 2 of those were sacks. Negative 30 yards rushing in those 2 plays. 2 sacks for 29 yards. And Florida decided to throw it, but they didn't throw it much more than Georgia. He was 21 of 33. But the Gators only averaged a yard an attempt on the ground. You just can't. You're not going to win like that, and they didn't. They just didn't win because the better team won. No doubt about that. And I just. The formula is what the formula is, and Kirby's not going to go away from it. I mean, the balance was as such, okay? You've got Swift had 26 touches for 200, for about 110 yards. That's a lot. And then Harrion was 7 rushes. Jake Fromm ran really well. He really did. He didn't take a sack at all. He scrambled great. Actually, this is his best scrambling performance that he's had. So he had 3 of those. James Cook with 1 carry for 6 yards. Got it outside. That was a big carry. And then Zamir slammed it up in there for a 2-yard gain. Zamir will get going over time. But yeah, and then you spread it out with Cager, Harrion, Wolf, Robertson, Charlie Warner. So your tight ends caught 4 balls. DeAndre Swift caught another. That's 5 balls. And then Harrion. So that's almost 10 of Jake's 20 completions to the backs and the tight ends. But Lawrence Cager was the one that did all the damage, just specifically on that one play. But he had 7 catches for 132 yards. The long was 52. That means he had another 6 catches for 80 yards or so. And they just played better. They're the better team. There's just no confusion about that. You look at the Gator receivers are as good as Georgia's going to deal with the exception of Alabama. If they play Alabama, they might not play Alabama, but that's a legit defense. Group. They wound up with 257 yards passing. But even though there were explosive plays, I feel like they were. They weren't thrown down the field. They were very similar to the way that Georgia plays. It will be curious to see in the future with Texas A&M and maybe with Missouri, although Kelly Bryant's not a deep pass threat guy, and he's dealing with a hamstring situation. He's been able to get rested. They had the week off. If you're Missouri, you have to look at this Georgia game and say, hey, can we catch these guys in a look-ahead sandwich game? They're looking at Auburn and all this. Maybe. 14, I would probably take Missouri in this game just because of the situation. But that it's at night, that's not ideal for Missouri. I'm trying to remember the last time Georgia lost a night game at Sanford Stadium, a legit post 6 o'clock game. And maybe y'all can comment below and tell me. I can't remember. Kirby's never lost a home night game. So just comment below and correct me. But I thought in terms of the trajectory of everything, that was a great shot that Florida had coming into that game. Everyone really did... oversell Georgia's situation. Georgia has issues just like all these teams do, frankly. But it was oversold. It was overdone. And I think that now maybe the reaction will be to the opposite side over, praising Georgia. That we're so reactionary. I think they're one of the best teams in the country, one of the top 6 teams. I think there's maybe 7 teams that can win the national championship. I'm putting Oregon in there. I don't really think they can win it. But, whoever wins the SEC is going to be the most proven team. It doesn't mean they're going to be the best team. The team with the most to prove is going to be Clemson. Their schedule is really bad, and it's getting worse, it feels like. Ohio State, they'll still have to deal with Penn State. They'll still have to deal with Michigan. They may well have to play Wisconsin again or undefeated Minnesota. I don't think that they will have problems with Minnesota, but teams lose. Shit, they lost last year to Purdue by 30, so it can happen. And then, Oklahoma, I think still I should probably include them, but and Baylor's undefeated. So you have some weird teams, Minnesota, Baylor, but are they really going to get through their conferences? I mean, that's just hard to believe. For Georgia, you just have to keep moving. I think they'll take care of business basically from here on out. The game at Auburn is going to be brutal. It's a tough game, but Auburn they're not scoring the way that you need to win against Georgia. I'm not sure that they would score much more than 17 points if they'd score that against the Dogs. So this is a situation where if you're Georgia, stay healthy, you keep everything in front of you, and you get to Atlanta with one loss, and then you just lay it all on the line in that game against LSU or Alabama. I think they match up better with both those teams than they would have last year in a championship game. Alabama is a 7-point favorite against LSU. I don't have my phone with me, but that seems like a lot. I'm not sure if I would go for that, and it could have changed since the time that I started talking. I haven't looked at it since it sort of originally came out, but that seems high to me. I don't know who wins that game, and the national narrative will be set. It will depend on how the teams look. It will depend on who the loser is. It will depend on if Tua plays, which if he does, I can't imagine he's going to play well. Georgia is certainly a dark horse in the same way that Penn State is, but Georgia's been here before with some of this stuff. They really had to beat the Gators, and they did. And so now the season has serious momentum, and November really matters, and you've got some challenging games for sure. I want everyone to check out the videos from above from the Florida game. We've got a slew of them. Click on them. You can see the celebrations. Kirby, Jake Fromm. Make sure to click subscribe if you're listening on iTunes. Appreciate it. Comment there as well. Dean Legge from Dogpost, DAWGPOST.com. We'll see you over on the website.